Welcome back to our week of action via EIT Climate Kick. We are here to celebrate climate innovations and entrepreneurs all over the world and talk to our partners who are boosting them and enabling them to grow and scale. We are now talking to a very interesting panel about how we are boosting climate entrepreneurship in Asia, in very different countries. Before I introduce the panelists, I really want to welcome you to stay tuned for the day 3 today. We have many sessions happening. There will be a pioneer session, for example, in just an hour happening. There will be many more sessions during the day and during the week. So please, audience, when you have questions, stay curious, ask any questions to the panelists or to the participants in these sessions. Be curious, challenge them a bit. I think that's worth it, and we'll have time after the session to really go into your questions and ask them to the panelists. I think it's important to say that our day 3 today is focused on energy. So as soon as you are working on any ideas or innovations related to energy, feel free to post them and make them visible under our hashtag Destination 1.5. I repeat, hashtag Destination 1 point spelled out 5. So I believe we do have my panelists right now with us here. So let's see. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you doing? Good afternoon in China and India. Very good, very good.
Hi, morning. Hi, Kristen.
I will quickly introduce you and then I will ask you to introduce yourselves. So we have Pratap and Raju here, who is leading ClimateCollective in India. We have Johnson Su with us, who is leading Daube Ventures in China, in Shanghai. And we've got Patrick Bosteels here, who is leading now Sprint Accelerator in Turkey. Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves. We will go with Pratap first. Then we'll have Johnson and Patrick to talk a bit more, right? And audience, remember to ask many questions. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Right. Hi. Thank you. This is great to be able to speak to more people about something that I've been working on for over a decade now, climate. What we do here in India, and we actually did start with Climate Kick back in 2017, is to take what my experience as an entrepreneur for about 15 years and help others find solutions and go to the market and support the climate. So we started with a climate launchpad program in 2017. India was relatively new to entrepreneurship in this space, even though the startup boom or ecosystem started developing about 15, 17 years ago. And after a couple of quiet years, something really amazing happened. People were really interested in climate entrepreneurship. So now we've seen an explosion of interest in products on the ground, innovation in incubators, more and more startups getting funding. Give you a sense of the size that we're seeing, at least in terms of our programs. We've had about 610 clean tech accelerators join our programs over the last 3.5 to 4 years. That's amazing compared to when we started with a small solar hackathon in 2016 that was relatively quiet after. Now, I think what we're also seeing is a lot of maturity in this space where it was initially energy, starting off in 2016, 17, an explosion of interest in circular economy. And that's driving a lot more people into the space, especially women entrepreneurs. We run a few women-focused programs as well in circular economy. And they're quite exciting to see coming to the ground because it's not just the supply side or the startup side, it's the entire ecosystem is starting to align. The funding is starting to get formed. The government policies, for example, EPR, extended producer responsibility, starting to take shape and push corporates to look for solutions. And of course, a significant portion of the startups that we see, if not the vast majority, add value to customers, whether they're business or consumers, on their own. So we're seeing a momentum on itself from the private sector. So it's very exciting to share what I've seen over the last few years in India and South Asia. We're active in Sri Lanka and Maldives as well here and through a partner in Nepal. Thank you.
Thanks, Pratap. Johnson, go ahead.
This is Johnson. Hello, everyone. So talking about myself, I have been with Tsing Capital for over 5 years, and we are the first venture capital firm in China who are focusing on the impact investment. And we have offices in Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and one colleague in the US. So Top Venture Partner is a new community we just built this year together with our partners from Europe. And we have been working with ClimateCollective to launch a an accelerator and an early stage fund in China, targeting those climate tech startups.
Perfect, John. Patrick, go ahead.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Great to be here, of course. Bosteels, as you can maybe imagine, my name is not Turkish, nor South Asian. I'm actually Belgian. I came to Turkey around 9 years ago. Together with my wife and partner, we started a platform for startups. First, basically aiming at the Turkish startups, then going around Turkey itself. So we are now, I dare to say, the biggest independent startup community builder here in Turkey. We moved out from Istanbul to Izmir and trying to continue to build the ecosystem here. With StageCo, what we were doing mainly was giving workshops, startup weekends, hackathons, anything that had to do to help startups get started. We were already almost always in the early stage places where teams are sometimes not complete or ideas are not validated. Prototypes still have to be made. So I like to work on the early stage teams. That's where we can have actually the most impact, to my opinion. Then, actually, thanks to COVID, I started my own accelerator. I wanted to start actually in Izmir specifically. So Izmir is a big city in Turkey, 4 million people. But thanks to COVID, I had to go online, and before I knew it, I was actually having a global accelerator based on SDGs. And I wanted to include 3 parts of the world where I think we can have impact, because that's for me the most important thing. So that was, of course, the Balkans, Eastern Africa, but also I really wanted to explore what could be done in Southeast Asia. So in the meantime, after 1 year and a half now, I already did 5 cohorts. We are now actually in our 5th one at this moment. This one is now a vertical. It's agriculture impact. As I said, always SDG-based, women entrepreneurs first. That's a little bit how we select the teams. Now Sprint Accelerator as a program is totally bootstrapped. So I started on my own. I have some friends who helped me doing some of the workshops, but mainly 80% of the work I do just on myself here in front of my computer, like I'm sitting here now. The program is 1 month online, 8 workshops, and then a pitch day in front of real investors. So that has been quite an adventure. And actually, for me, it was also kind of an MVP for myself, this accelerator program. And today I'm very, very happy that I can also be part of the Climate Accelerator program. Because as I said, SDGs are very important, but if we go even a step further, I can already see it in food. So in food, it is already, so agriculture is already a step forward. And I think climate acceleration it's a small step, it's a small drop in the ocean, but I think we have to create a lot of drops, because don't forget, the ocean is built from drops of water. So I think everything that we can do, we should do in what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Pratap, I want to ask you a first question, and we will ask you a first question to all of you a bit about what's happening in your region, in your country, and then we will go into some details. Pratap, in a short summary, what has been happening in climate and entrepreneurship? You already started talking about this, but please tell us a bit more, and what do you think will happen in the future?
Right. Yeah, I did touch upon this in the introduction, and from a very slow, late start, I think. And the main reason for a late start is we really, in India and South Asia, started supporting the building the startup ecosystem late as well. It's only about 15 years, 17 years before even the e-commerce or food delivery startups and all these started coming out in India. And we were battling many things here. Of course, what is a startup? Does it make money? Should investors put into it? These are basic questions that were relatively new in India 15 years ago, and then we were battling other stuff in our space in climate. Why is climate a business? Is this is good what you're doing, but isn't this for CSR or just the government to support, but not for commercial or private business or investors? And this takes time. When I started in solar in 2009, Most people didn't believe solar would work, and it's not a viable option for India. 2013-14, we had, I think, 10,000 megawatts on the ground, and we have 40 or 50,000 now. Things can change very fast once people start to see the activity on the ground and results on the ground. So I think something similar is happening right now. With when we started, there was a lot of incredulity that climate and business or startups could go hand in hand. We're seeing startups generate revenue. I think that's the easiest and most powerful way to get belief that this is actually a startup business. Maybe we take it for granted globally, but in new ecosystems, especially in Asia, especially when we're used to business promoters and entrepreneurs who support family-grown businesses, it's quite common here, at least in South Asia. The idea of some young kid with a great idea should be supported was not straightforward. But I think now that the fitting from the clean tech space is the fact the ecosystem is starting to be accepted. And India now is a pretty startup ecosystem as well. Some, 50,000 startups or something like that. In clean tech, we're now able to migrate more stakeholders. The government, we're seeing at the state government level, more people finding clean tech to be a startup domain to support, which means funding for startups, clean tech startups. We're seeing, of course, investors slowly inch in. This is great as well. And the most important is we're seeing entrepreneurs. Sometimes you have stakeholders, but they're looking for solutions. Now, before you have solutions, you have years of ecosystem development. If you want to kind of look at the dozens of big industries that do need solutions, you need many people taking risks, and this is a long process. We all know. So I think we're seeing the momentum now. It's still an early stage ecosystem, and one metric we can use as from the funding side, the bulk of our startups are starting to get to pre-Series A, kind of funding. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds, and only dozens at the Series A and B and above. But this is just a matter of time. When you look at pipelines, we're looking at demand from all stakeholders. Everything is lining well. Our goal right now is to kind of support this movement from getting to that big hurdle, getting to the market, getting that first key pilot. Oftentimes these early pilots are, if they're government supported, they don't get the acceptance yet. You need real strong commercial deployment pilots, all this stuff. And I think especially with the experience with ClimateCollective in particular, we're able to learn and not have to recreate things from scratch. And this has really helped us as the ClimateCollective reach the scale that we are right now. And it's not just the Accelerator platform. ClimateCollective has this great marketplace that we're talking to see how to bring in more capital besides what's available here in India, and all the other programs as we slowly grow more with ClimateCollective here in India as well.
Thank you, Pratap, for the summary. Johnson, what's happening in China then? Unmute yourself, please, Johnson. Still muted. You're still muted, Johnson. Johnson, you're still muted. Let's continue with Patrick for a second. Patrick, what's happening in Turkey and Eastern Africa?
Oh, sorry about that.
You can continue.
Go ahead, Johnson.
Sorry. So China has recently made a pledge, to achieve CO2 emission peak before 2030 and then carbon net zero by 2060. China accounts for roughly 30% of global CO2 emissions. So it is very critical to the planet's future climate. But the challenge is how to turn these goals into, through domestic policies. China's energy consumption still heavily relies on coal, which fuels nearly 60%. And the coal price is much lower in China than the renewable energies, which almost, the whole economy are benefiting from this. I hope the transition, can be smooth without too much hurt to the quality of people's life, especially to those, social vulnerable groups. So we are already feeling the pain, of power shortage these days. To meet the deadline, we need some more innovation in technologies rather than just investing into these capital-intensive projects. And just a few days ago, we have seen, The government has listed specific goals and measures it will take, to achieve its carbon emissions peak and carbon neutrality goals, such as banning unplanned new oil refining and coal projects. So the guideline introduced a roadmap, for achieving the carbon peak by 2030 and neutrality by 2060. So we will see some more details later on.
Okay, we will be very curious about that. Patrick, what's happening in Turkey versus all these two big countries out there? What do you think?
Well, actually, of course, Turkey is a very big country. It's between Asia and Europe, so it has a very strategic place. We have to always look at what are developing countries doing and what are developed countries doing. And in the end of the day, we are talking about startups, what Praha also already mentioned. So entrepreneurship, which is actually for me startups, entrepreneurship is about starting your own business and you can live from that business and you can grow your business. That's the basic thing. So it's a commercial institution. And the discussion today is, and that's also what we see here in Turkey and around, we had social entrepreneurship, and that for me was more looking like NGOs who were trying to make a business plan, which of course didn't succeed. So now we don't hear too much about social entrepreneurship anymore. And I'm a little bit afraid that this could be the same thing in climate change. So for the climate change as a very complex global thing. So a startup itself can do small things, but in the end of the day, the policymakers are going to do the big change. I mean, because it is about change. This is the reason why changes in climate change is that we have to change what we're doing today. And startups are only a very, very little part of that. So we should definitely continue to do it. But startups at the end of the day have to make money. They have to have a market where they can sell their products or their services. So it's a very complex thing. And I can see that also in Turkey. So in the end of the day, when I look at the East African startups or the Turkish startups, or even Southeast Asia startups, they are trying to make something that provides them money. Because that's how we live today. We buy our bread and we have a house above our head or a roof above our head because we pay for these things. So it's a way of to make your own money instead of going to work somewhere. So in the same thing, so we don't see too many initiatives today because there is not the overall policies are not yet ready yet to embrace that from an investor point of view. So okay, the green investments are growing. But I don't see that too much here. I see this in the States and I see this in Europe, but I don't see this in developing countries. There are, of course, always some initiatives who take some light and people then see them. But if you look at 100 startups today in this region, then 90 of them are pure making something that they think an audience will need and they will pay for it, and all the rest has maybe other values like climate change or using the SDGs as their drive. So a lot of room for growth. A lot of possibilities are still open, but the main frame, the main things are missing today because they're from the policymakers. They're not from the startups. I mean, the startups have to abide by the rules and the laws that there are today. If I look around in Turkey today, I don't see solar panels on homes. And that always strikes me. So if I go to Belgium, for example, every home has a sun panel and they don't have sun in Belgium. So I'm like, this is very weird. So in Turkey, we always have sun and we don't have sunroof panels. And in Belgium, we don't have sun and it's full of sunroof panels. So then I'm like, okay, for me, it has to make sense. So, and the common sense for me is a little bit missing now. And that's why I like the word resistance. So we are the resistance. We are telling to people, hey guys, we have to change all these things. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen tomorrow. So that's a little bit, I think, where especially developing countries are today.
I think I couldn't agree more. And this will lead me to the next question, which I will ask to Patrick and Johnson afterwards. So why are you starting and working towards an accelerator focused on climate? Why? Why do you take this next step?
I believe in resistance. So I like to learn from history. So weirdly enough, every generation learns the same thing. Means every generation makes the same mistakes. we don't learn anything. So I like to look a little bit in history. And for example, I was watching a documentary on the resistance in World War II in Belgium. And the resistance people were the ones who were actually helping to get rid of the people who were doing these things. I'm not going to go too deep in these things, but so the resistance was a counter movement. And for me, what I try to do with climate change acceleration, or even with the SDGs, what I'm doing is I want to be a counter movement. I want to show to people, look, there is also an other side of the medal. So now we see, so developing countries, the startups, they look at the unicorns and they think, I want to be a unicorn first, because that's what they have in their mind. I want to be also a unicorn. And then I say, guys, that's not what it is. It's about creating a company who has an added value to your customers, but also towards the society. It has to be more than just making money and whatever. I don't care about the rest. So that's what I like about the climate acceleration, is that showing another way of doing things, showing another side of how you can do business, and it's the hardest one. I have to be honest. In climate change, there is more against you than with you. There is no investor. There are no really good policymakers who are really into these things. Everybody is for the short win. In Turkey, I always have to. We're always laughing with this. Short term is tomorrow, mid-term is the day after, and long term is 3 days further away. So that's a little bit how I see this in many developing countries, because everybody's taking what he can take, because tomorrow it can be over. That's how we live. I mean, that's how we live. So in Germany, people, they book their holidays 2 years ahead. If we book a holiday, it's 1 week ahead. That's the mentality. That's how we are. That's the culture that we are living in. So for me, starting the climate and joining this group of people, which actually are all nuts people, because we are thinking that we can change the world, and of course we can't. But if we don't do anything, and that was what the resistance was doing also in the Second World War, if we don't do anything, I mean, I cannot do that. I mean, Praha was talking about kids. I also have kids. I mean, we have to think about the future, not of our future. We have to think about the kids' future and their kids. So it's a kind of resistance for me. That's what I like about the climate change accelerator.
Very good comparison. Johnson, what do you think about this, and why are you starting this accelerator step in ClimAccelerator? You're muted, Johnson.
Johnson likes to be muted, I think.
Oh, sorry about it.
He likes that button. He likes the button.
Yeah. First of all, so the carbon net zero plan is very aggressive. I think, the policies to reduce carbon emissions would be more effective if combined with some new technologies and innovations, which improves the resource efficiency, rather than just, relying on the administrative production reduction. So according to a forecast, from Goldman Sachs, the country's potential, path to the net zero by sector and technology will bring about $16 trillion, clean tech investment by 2060. So, and it will also create something like 40 million net new jobs and drive economic growth. So it is a huge market, and I think it is a perfect time for us to join in. And secondly, the pandemic has isolated the whole world for about almost 2 years, and we have seen so much turbulence in world politics. To fight climate change might be the only common goal for all the countries. After all, we are all human beings, and it is everyone's mission to care about the long-term sustainability. This is a business that we can do for the rest of our lives. And last but not least, we have seen any other, climate tech. We haven't now seen any other, climate tech focused accelerators in China yet. Most of the capitals were poured into the internet, e-commerce or smart technologies to pursue, the fast and high returns. While climate tech now is a huge attractive market, but with so few players in it.
And I think that's many good arguments and many opportunities for you to get started there. And we do hope, obviously, that in the United Nations Climate Conference and COP26 in the next weeks, they all work together, right? Audience, feel free to ask more questions to the gentleman. We'll have 5 more minutes and a few more questions, and please feel free to ask your questions. So Pratap, what do you think about their stories, and like how was it for you then to start such an accelerator journey, let's say, and how do you compare it to their stories?
Right. No, I think Patrick touched upon this when we were talking about kids. Now, I was a solar developer for many years, and people used to come to me and say, "That's very noble what you're doing." I'm scratching my head thinking I'm trying to sell power at this price, make it less, and make that money for myself as a private developer. So I never felt like it was in the climate space. I was a clean tech. I had a clean tech business or renewable energy business. Then I did have kids about 10 years back, and it has changed for me because this idea of we're doing something, as Patrick mentioned, not just for ourselves, but especially for people we know coming up, or even whether in our own families or all around us. So that really pushed me towards when I left the solar business, setting up a climate accelerator in 2016. Now, I don't know. I've heard a few things from Johnson and Patrick, and I keep reminding myself of this very great Arabic old phrase, I think 15, 16 years, centuries ago. If someone tries to predict the future, he's lying. Even if it comes out true, he was lying. And that kind of at least makes us a little bit more humble about trying to understand if things are going to be different this time. Even Lord Templeton, I always use another phrase that he's come up, our quote, this is great, the 4 most dangerous words in the English language. This time it's different. So with those in mind, I do feel there are secular trends happening. These secular trends are very positive. There's many stakeholders, especially business people. It's different in different countries. There's more business here in India that's supporting climate on a private basis, not from government policy, etc. That gives me hope that there's legs to push in climate. And in India, we don't get much funding anyway for climate from the startup ecosystem. It's all private driven, so that complements this secular trend I'm seeing on the demand side. So I'm pretty hopeful that this is something that will pick up. I also want to share my own experience in solar. When solar was above the grid, the cost of solar power, nobody wanted solar without subsidies. And even then, not sure. When it was below the grid, we were all going on solar. Solar is actually for additional capacity versus coal is about 1/3 the price of new coal plants. So there's no coal being built in India. It's only solar and wind, 90 or 95% for many years now. And that's a trend across the world. In most countries, like bar 2 or 3, I think, something like this. So I do believe there is a role for innovation, even though when we talk about innovation, we're talking about 2 or 3 people or sometimes single founder companies trying to change the world. My ex-wife used to work at a very big financial services company and financial processing company. And it was without fail that they would put in 20 to 50 times more money, $5 to $10 million into products and never beat that garage-based fintech startup. Never.
Yeah.
They would fail at every project. She was a product manager there as well. She was a digital product manager. So I think there is a lot of potential here. That last IEA report, International Energy Agency, kind of maps out, well, if we're going to get to net zero by 2070 or net zero emissions by 2050, 30 to 40% of the technologies haven't been invented yet. It's not based on things that are being prototyped now. They're not invented yet, and startups may play a big role in here. There'll be, of course, corporates and government doing this, but even startups can play a role in finding these ways to get adoption or reducing costs, all this stuff. So I'm pretty hopeful that there's a lot of tailwinds here, and the secular trends give me hope that this is going to be a growth area for decades to come. Because even though we talk about a word like climate change, we're talking about hundreds of different solutions needed, or thousands in many industries, especially when you throw in circular economy and think about waste from many different industries. We need quite a bit of new innovation, and many of this will come from startups. I also do believe that a significant portion will come, especially for those that get adopted in developing countries like India, locally. I always say that the best microgrid solution I've ever seen was this one in Berkeley Labs. Beautiful. And my cousin was the head of the renewable node agency in a state called Andhra Pradesh. He used to tell me the biggest problem he faced in putting microgrids in the rural parts of that state was theft of copper wires. That was not put into the design by this solution I saw in Berkeley. I'm not saying that, as a result it's a bad solution. I'm just saying that for solutions that come to the ground, oftentimes local entrepreneurs have an advantage, outside of maybe deep material science and others. And I think that's what's going to be exciting here in India as well as other developing countries for years to come.
Very good, very good, very good. Before we go to the questions, in one phrase, each of you, what advice would you give entrepreneurs in your region? In one single phrase. Patrick goes first, then Johnson and Pratap.
Let's kick ass.
Very good. Johnson.
I think it's the right time, to do this. Yeah, the right
Very
time.
good. Pratap.
Yeah, nothing beats perseverance.
Very good, very good. Just give me a few seconds to check out the questions and I'll be right back. Okay, gentlemen, I've got the first question. I heard that both Pratap and Patrick are leading accelerator programs for women. How is the situation of women in clean tech in their region? Patrick first and Pratap.
I wished it was more.
Very good.
That's my short answer.
Good. It totally counts. Pratap.
Yeah, especially in countries like India, where there are significant barriers to women culturally. And we fight many things that maybe in other places taken for granted. The idea in especially rural India and some parts, the idea even going to school is not culturally accepted in many communities. Maybe it's different in the big metros, but even there's significant portions here. So it's not just a entrepreneurship problem; it's a cultural problem to be solved. When we did start in 2017, we saw about 6% of the applications came from women in our program. And we ran some accelerators called Climate Ready for Women. And that number, I think, is reaching to, can't remember off him, I think it's 36 or 38% in about 3 years in the applications. And then when I look at one specific area that's very interesting on circular economy, it's majority women, not just applying, but getting accepted into the program. So I think that, these are all hard for solutions. I think there's no lack of talent amongst women. I think that's a given. I think if we put interventions on the ground and we wait, maybe slowly over time, we can slowly increase that. And women, of course, is one inclusion problem target, but there's many across our countries. The rural-urban divide, the language divide. If you speak English in India, you will get access to resources. If you speak a local language only, which is reflective of your education largely, perhaps, you don't get as much access. So I think as long as we continue to recognize that the more people coming into entrepreneurship and having that access or that opportunity, the better off we'll be off in terms of not just a more equitable society, but even I believe the solutions will be stronger. In fact, if I may continue, we've been focusing on gender and climate in particular, a framework, and there is a significant amount of influence of women in a lot of climate solutions. The insights in consumer consumption behavior, oftentimes in many products and many segments, is driven or be heavily influenced by women, especially in rural India. Having that insight come in through women entrepreneurs would be absolutely amazing. It's not a gender equity goal itself. We could see it reflecting in just much stronger solutions on the ground as well. So we're pushing forward for inclusion because I think not just it's right on its own, but I think we'll see better solutions on the ground.
Yeah. And I also want to give this question to Johnson. Johnson, how is it in China in that sense? I mean, you've been active in this space for many, many years already.
I think in China is much better, talking about ourselves, So we have a team in China about 16 people. So only 4 of us are gentlemen. 12 other people are all ladies. So it's already a big achievement. And also we have another partner in China who are running accelerators in Shanghai, Dalian, Nanjing, and also Beijing. So they are founded by 2 ladies.
Okay. Before we wrap up, one last question to you guys. What do you need the most to help more entrepreneurs? In a short phrase, please. Again, Patrick, Pratap, and Johnson.
What do I need? For me personally, I don't need it. I mean, I've started in a very bootstrapped way, so it was just me and my friends. There's no money, there is no sponsoring, and we can see that we have a huge impact. So each time we have around 10 teams. I know that KPIs most of the time are like, do they have a next round? How much money can they collect? I'm not really into that. For me, it's more like, can they make it a sustainable business? And I see that it is happening today. So of course, money makes things easier. I could create a team, but at the same time, I also like the bootstrapped way because I always say it's my program, so I can kick out people. I can be nice. I can be not nice. So I kind of like that thing. So it becomes always very nice because at the end of the cohorts, we all become friends and we are all trying to help each other. And the more I can do it, the better. So for me, the only thing that I want is a good health. I just recovered from cancer, stomach cancer. So I'm still under after treatment. But if my health is good, I'll continue, and that's what I want to do. Thank you.
Very good. We'll help you in that sense. Pratap and Johnson, in a short phrase, what do you need the most?
Okay. Okay, I'll go first. I need more money. I mean, we are a nonprofit, and nonprofits try to put some impact on the ground and try to experiment and see what works and doesn't. And we have started seeing some success on the ground where programs are growing large. But I mentioned a number at the beginning, 610 startups and some women programs that I think we had 36 women in 2 accelerators. India is huge. It's a 1.4 billion people, give or take 100 million. I don't think people actually know how many people are in India. I think that especially with the partners we have, and we have not just ClimateCic, but other good partners in the region, we can increase the impact on the ground by getting the capital needed to grow, as well as getting more capital to startups early stage, especially before the private sector. We can crowd in the private sector with their capital.
Yeah, very good.
In a nutshell.
Very good. Johnson.
Sure. Yeah, we have some management fees already, to run this program, but still we need some more money, more fundings, to help us to enlarge this team and to have some more, talents to join us, because we are going to, have some more PR, and also to make this a big thing, for us to be known by everybody, we are doing the first ClimateCollective focused, accelerator in China. So we need some more, resources on this, definitely.
Thank you. All right, very good, gentlemen. Thank you for your time today. We've had Johnson Su, partner at Tsing Capital and Daube Ventures here with the Future China Climate Accelerator. We've got Pratap Raju here, co-founder and leader of ClimateCollective at the Future Adaptation Resilience Climate Accelerator in India. And Patrick Bosteels here from Now Sprint Accelerator, who will run quite a few climate accelerators in Turkey and even Eastern Africa and the Baltics here. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining in, and thank you for this time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's great,
Bye-bye.
and thank you to the panel, and thank you, Kristen.
Sure.
Thank you all, guys.
Thank you.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
To the audience, stay tuned, please. In just 20 minutes, we will have the next sessions on our Pioneer session with Lisa and Sam. And then during this day, we will have some more sessions with our Climate Fund partners and some future climate accelerators across Europe. Stay tuned, listen in, and see you soon again. Thank you. Bye-bye.